My name is Eitan Chatayat, and welcome to I'm That podcast, where I get to talk to some pretty incredible people. Some are friends and colleagues, some are clients, and some are people I haven't even met yet. On I'm That, we'll hear from them about who they are, what they do and why, stuff they love or hate, mistakes they've made, victories they've had. They're all known for something, but by the time we're through, the hope is they'll have revealed some things we didn't know about them. Our talk may be deep, profound, funny, who knows really. One thing for sure, it'll be interesting and honest. So if you're up for that, thank you for joining me on I'm That, and here we go. Melinda Strauss, a Jewish content creator on social media with over 1 million followers on TikTok and Instagram, is well known for her educational videos about Orthodox Judaism, Jewish history, discussing anti-Semitism and Zionism, kosher recipes, and sharing her everyday life as a wife, a mom of 2 teenagers, a dog mom, and both a type 1 diabetic and the mom of a type 1 diabetic. Born and raised in Seattle, Washington, Melinda now lives with her family in Woodmere, New York. Melinda has been blogging and sharing her recipes since 2011, and she'll be debuting her first cookbook in the spring of 2025. Woohoo! Find Melinda on TikTok and Instagram at The Real Melinda Strauss and through her website, melindastrauss.com, because she's amazing and awesome, and I love her to bits. Okay, so those are the formalities over. Here we are. Hi, Melinda.
Hello. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, you're very welcome. We can talk about it now that I completely botched up your name at the beginning and I called you Melissa by accident. And we were talking about like how people get that wrong all the time.
If I'm walking down the street and I hear somebody going, Melissa, I turn around for it because I know they're calling me. And then I don't correct them even because it happens so often that I don't know, it's just become my second name.
Well, so tell me something, because it's been happening to me lately that people are kind of like stopping me in the street. Does that happen to you a lot?
Yes. And it's wonderful. I happen to, thank God, like I've been doing this for a long time. So even like from it starting in my community and then expanding out, I'm used to it in a really good way. I love it. Like I love people like, do you mind if I bother you for a second? I'm like, you're not bothering me. Not even a little bit. I mean, obviously if like with my family, it's okay to like, to say hello, but I will stop and I will talk to people for like 10 minutes about their life.
I think, like the way that I met you was through, I guess, all the Jewish advocacy that we're doing right now intensely because of the situation in Gaza. But I've met a lot of people and I've spoken to a lot of people. A lot of the advocates are trying to work together. But you have this very warm familiarity about you, which I personally feel, which is one of the reasons why I like you and I think that we've become friends. But what you just said about when people meet you, that you love it, I think that's one of the reasons why people are so drawn to you. You just seem very comfortable with yourself. Have you always been like that?
I would say so. I definitely am a person who sticks to who I am no matter what. I'm a very casual person. I'm always like in sweatshirts. And when I have to dress up, I always feel like I'm not being myself for those few moments where it's fun. But I always feel like me as just a very laid back person is my personality. Not all the time. I mean, I have kids and things get stressful and I turn into a crazy person. But in general, I'd say I'm a pretty laid back person with life. Like if you give me a new idea to try something, even blogging, when I started my blog back in 2011, it's because a friend was like, oh, you should start a blog, because I was sharing recipes on Facebook. I was like, okay, I don't even know what that was. I didn't follow blogs. I didn't know what blogs were, but I just am a see what sticks to the wall and keep moving forward kind of person.
So you were on Facebook and you were just like posting recipes?
Yeah, I was a stay-at-home mom with my second kid, with my daughter. I had been working a 9-to-5 for many years. And when she was born, I'm like, why don't I try? I just was not earning enough to like really stay in the workplace. I'm like, I'm going to try being a stay-at-home mom. And she napped all day long, like blessing of all blessings. And I was bored. Isn't that great? Like
that's crazy.
What a crazy origin story.
That's a crazy story that your baby was quiet.
Yeah, my baby was sleeping. Nora was just the ultimate sleeper. And I couldn't like go any places with her because she was just always napping. My mother-in-law always thought there was something wrong with her. I'm like, she's napping and she's eating and she's happy. Just leave her alone. So I started playing with recipes because I've always loved food and tested recipes. And I started sharing them in a Facebook page, like not a page, in an album on my page. And I called it something like testing recipes in my kosher kitchen or something like that. And my friend was like, Mel, put these on a blog. Like these shouldn't just be, and pictures were horrible. The recipes were fantastic. Some of them were a little crazy, like putting gushers inside of meatballs, which I'll never, ever live down. But I know it's not good, but like I wanted to see the sweet and sour meatballs are really good. And it was just for fun.
Where were you getting these recipes from?
They're from my brain. All from up in my brain, inspired by other people's recipes or by my grandparents' recipes, a lot of family stuff.
So why, I mean, look, we're getting to know each other.
Yeah.
Why did you not become a chef is there a reason that obviously it's a passion.
Yeah. Well, the chef life is not for me. I have a lot of friends who are chefs and it's a different kind of life, like the working hours and working for somebody else. At that point, I was enjoying, I wasn't like full-time working when I was blogging. I didn't even know you could make money at the beginning. It was just a really fun hobby. And I just wanted to try it out. Like, what's the worst that could happen? It doesn't go well and I stop. Like that's kind of my mentality in general. And I would take these recipes, I would develop new ones. I would take, again, at the beginning, my pictures were horrible, but it didn't matter because it was just having fun. And a little bit over time, people besides my mom and sisters started reading my recipes and finding them. And I started building this community and then meeting other Jews who had started blogs around the same time as me. We didn't even know each other. We are still, to this day, really close friends.
And all around the food, kind of like them as well?
Yeah. All of us were food bloggers and we all just connected. I started actually a conference. I don't know if you know this, but for many, many, many years, I still consider doing it this year, but I'm very busy, but I would really love to make it happen because I really always felt like we grow better when we grow together, right? Nobody should be doing this alone. We learn from each other. When we're supporting each other, we grow. And I wanted to start this conference so that all of us bloggers and food writers and chefs and anyone in the field could come together and learn from different speakers about how to grow. And then we could start building this community. And I did it there must have been like 8 or 9 conferences.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Really, really fun conferences too. Great speakers.
Was it everywhere? Or was it local for you?
It was always in New York, but I would do it before an event called Kosher Fest that was happening in New York. So that was in Jersey, so that people who were flying in anyways would be able to come to my event and their event at the same time.
That's amazing. And you're still in touch with a lot of the people?
I would say a majority. I mean, we have like a little WhatsApp group with a whole bunch of us that have known each other over 10 years at this point, and we're all really, really close.
And they're doing the same thing that you're doing? Just like they have their own recipes, they blog?
Oh, yes. Yeah, the food blogging part for sure. I would say with all the other stuff that I'm doing, no, like we all have different passions that we do, but food is what brings us all together.
So how did I know that you told us how you got into it, but the thing that I've noticed about social media and blogging on my side is that for me, actually, it's very lonely because I'm at home, I'm writing, I'm creating, I'm designing, I'm working with whoever I'm working with. And then I put it out there to the world. And then all of a sudden you get this onslaught of just people celebrating what you're doing and engaging. But it's all online. But I'm actually physically, so online there's a lot of people, but physically I'm on my own. And I think it's so wonderful that you actually decided to take that out of the digital realm. Is that something that you're like with what we're kind of like doing right now? Do you see that potentially happening? Because the Jewish advocacy thing, and I talked about it in your bio, everything that I've seen that you put out there is connected to your Jewish pride. Mm-hmm. Is there something happening in your head that maybe you'd like to get people together for that? Or is it just like food blogging?
That's a really interesting question. I've never thought about it because I do live in this space, like my blogging space. I still live in that food world. Like don't call myself a food blogger anymore, but all of my closest friends from that world, we're all still like food bloggers. I guess I never thought about it because people are so all over the world, and planning a conference is an insane amount of work. Like I would rather go over to like Stand With Us or one of these organizations and say, hey, would you like to plan an event like this versus me planning it myself? Because doing it for this many years, it's a huge undertaking. So I don't think that at this point in my life, I would want to take that on. I would go 1,000%. I would go. I'd even love to work with it because I happen to like working over the job over just being there networking. I know this is going to sound crazy. I really don't like networking.
It doesn't sound crazy at all. I suck at it. I hate it. Yeah.
Oh, I hate it so much. Like I get invited to these events. They're like, oh, you'll network with all these people. I'm like, can I just stay home? Can we
Yeah,
network this way?
that's the thing though. When you have the amount of followers that you have, I mean, you have over 1 million followers on TikTok,
Yeah.
and it's a lot. I mean, it's you, and I know, and I don't have close to the amount of people that are following me, but there's so much incoming. There's so much incoming. There's always people that want to talk to you and want to engage, and it's exhausting. I mean, it's great, it's amazing, but it's also exhausting. So to meet
it's a full-time job.
it's beyond a full-time job.
Yeah.
How has that affected your life, by the way? Because you're a mum. You got your dog. You go walking with the dog every day, and you do your little camera things, which I love. How is this full-time job in the world of being? And I hate the word influencer. I like to use the word advocate, or if you're into food, but it's not only food, is it? I mean, like I've seen you trying on clothes. And
right. So I used to do food, and then I had a different name. I was Kitchen Tested. It was my blog name, and then when I started sharing more on my dog walks and I was doing all these things, that's when I actually changed it to my name, because I realized I didn't want to put myself into this box of just food when it's it's lifestyle. It really is. That's a big word. I happen to not hate the word influencer, because what I find is that people use the word influencer in a negative way when they're talking about a certain kind of influencer. But if you're influencing other people's lives for the good, then you're an influencer. It's not just buy this product, but it's influencing people's minds. So I don't mind it. I call myself a content creator and influencer. We all have different names because it's such a new industry. But
you know what? It's actually I don't have an issue with the word. I'm a brand builder. I build brands for a living. I mean, that's what I do. And you don't know that much about me, and we're still getting to know each other. But like, I'm known for the brands that I build. And when we go to meetings and we talk about branding and storytelling, I really don't like those words. Not because I don't like the word, but because I'm a purist when it comes to branding. Right. And the craft of branding and storytelling has been so, I don't know if bastardized is the right word, that the words are being tarnished. And so an influencer, I think it's the same thing. It's like there are the real influencers, the people who are, that's really what they are. That's what they do. And then there are the wannabe influencers who kind of like have tarnished the word a little bit. What's your life like when you're followed by so many people?
It's overwhelming in the sense of it is a full-time job, but I've always felt in my mind, like, what's wrong with that? Like, people work, people have full-time jobs. And as someone who used to work, it was actually 9:30 to 5:30, but a 9 to 5 job. I understand what it means to work. When you work for yourself, you can make your own hours, which is something that I am totally blessed with. And I am grateful every freaking day, because I get to work for myself and make a living and, really contribute to my family, not just to the people around me, but my family as well. So I look at it as it's a full-time job, and you're not always going to like every part of your job, right? People say, when you love your job, you never work a day in your life. And I'm like, you're lying. You're lying. The goal is to love your job so much that you love most of it. But there's always going to be admin work. There's always going to be things. And as much as I keep telling myself, I'm going to hire an assistant to answer my messages for me, when I get messages back from people that I'm talking to online and it's not the person I think I'm talking to, I don't like that. Like, I don't like that feeling. So I can't bring myself to have somebody else answering my messages for me, even though it's overwhelming.
Well, so how do you do that when you have over 1 million followers? I'd say probably across all platforms, probably like 1.5, I imagine. How do you manage responding to everyone? I mean, I do the same thing as you, but I have just under 100,000 people following me. It's different.
Still a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and I also don't like the word followers, again, because it just sounds a little weird. I have followers and I have people who follow me. That's what I meant to say. It's a bit more of a mouthful. But how do you handle, let's set the context. You and I met during this insane period of war. And it's been for 5 months. And I've been doing what I do for many years, but you have been doing it for many years with a lot more people. How do you literally manage the conversations, the pings, the kind of like probably the emails, I mean, how do you handle all of that incoming?
Well, not perfectly.
Well, not for sure, perfectly. But like you don't have any help, right? So you're on your own.
Right. So I could, and that's why, I go back to considering that, especially with emails, because I'll have times where I'm really good at answering my emails and other times where I just let everything slide. I actually ended up hiring a manager for all of my business work because I was getting all these emails and I wouldn't follow through on all of them, and I'd miss all these incredible opportunities to work with companies. So I decided it was time I needed a manager, so that at least those emails, the ones from companies reaching out to me, at least they're going to my manager instead of me, so I'm not missing those. So it's not a perfect system. There are times where I'm amazing at responding, and there are times where I'm not. On social media, my mentality is I'll never be able to answer everybody's messages. I want to get to them all. And I think that people understand when you don't respond the same way. I'll reach out to someone and they don't respond. I'm like, they're busy. So, and when people are reaching out there versus through my manager or to my email, it's because they want to share a special story, or they just want to say something nice, or sometimes not so nice. And those I just block and delete. I don't even address those. But it's just knowing that it's never going to be a perfect system. And I just try to get to as many as possible and not apologize for it. If it's an email and it's important and it takes me a while to respond, I'll apologize. I think it's important to apologize when I am so delayed. But in messages, especially on Instagram, and by the way, I turn off on TikTok, you can't message me there, because I knew that if I kept that open, the barrage of hate and anti-Semitism would be all that I would see. So
let's talk about that for a second, because
yeah.
I was on TikTok, I think, right at the beginning. Just after October the 7th, I went on and I was there for 5 minutes and I couldn't. And by the way, that's where I heard about you, because I was speaking to someone, Judy Gray, True Adventures,
she's wonderful,
with Guy Deneuve. And she was like, oh my God. And she and I are friends and she likes the work that I do. I love the work that she does. And she said, you're on TikTok. Okay, you've got to get to Melinda. And I'm like, who's Melinda? And she's like, my God, you don't know Melinda. And then she told me all about you. And then I followed you. And then I was like, okay, this sucks. Not you, but just like TikTok. and I went off. And actually Judy went off as well in the end. Yeah. And you don't want to. You want to represent. So tell my listeners who are not familiar with TikTok, maybe the way that your listeners are, what is it about TikTok that's so amazing? And what is it about TikTok regarding anti-Semitism that we're all feeling? And why do you believe that you should stay on it?
Yeah, well, TikTok can be an amazing place, right? It's the reach, the way that you can reach people is so much bigger than any other app, where because of the algorithm, you could have 2 followers and have a video that hits 1 million views, because it's just the way the algorithm works differently. It's pushing you out. And with 1 million or 1.1 million, whatever it is, followers, whatever it is, I know exactly what it is. Let's be real.
1.123.
Yeah, right. Close to that, actually. And my videos reach millions more than my followers. In fact, a lot of times my followers don't even see my videos because of the algorithm. It's crazy. But I see the reach from my videos, and I see all the behind the scenes and who's messaging and all that. And I know that with the work that I'm doing, because I share about my whole account really started with me sharing about anti-Semitism.
Oh, really?
Because I felt like I was like just sharing random things, and I had a few thousand followers, which was still incredible for me. And I was like, if I can reach a few thousand people who will learn about anti-Semitism, I'm making a difference. That's always been my mentality. It's not about how many, it's about you using your voice, because you don't know who you're going to touch, right? Whose lives you're going to touch. So I started sharing, and I would say like, okay, guys, it's Friday. I'm signing off for Sabbath, and you just know that I won't be on. And they were like, what's Sabbath? Or I would eat something kosher. They're like, what's kosher? I was like, wow, I didn't even realize that so many people in the world don't know anything about Judaism, or Orthodox Judaism, specifically for my life as a modern Orthodox Jew. So I started answering people's questions, and by answering questions, people asked more questions. And I just kept reminding people there are no stupid questions. Ask whatever you need to ask, because I'd rather you ask than assume something and possibly be wrong, right? That's how so much anti-Semitism happens. It's people just believe whatever they want to believe, all these anti-Semitic tropes about Jews. And if you really just ask us and talk to us, you'll learn that's all garbage. It's all garbage. So I would just share and share about anti-Semitism, answering questions. I never hid my love for Israel. If I flew to Israel, I shared about it. I have a whole playlist or a highlight. It's called a playlist on TikTok, all about Israel. I want to make sure that people know from the beginning, like my love for Israel. If you don't love that and you need to like step away, you don't need to be here. You don't need to tokenize me as your Jew.
Why is that so important to you?
Because Israel is our homeland. I know I don't live there and I am in the diaspora and I'm choosing that life for myself, But Israel is the safest place for Jews in the world. It just is. We see that through our history. We see it right now. How many of my friends who live in Israel are like, how's it going in America right now? We're safer than you, aren't we? Even with rockets flying at Israel, people in Israel feel safer than, especially around America, but all over Europe. And it's so dangerous. And it just shows us that we need Israel to survive.
But why? It's a very contentious issue. I mean, I'm Israel. I live in Israel, as you know.
Yeah.
I made a decision around 15 years ago with social media and this digital world that we're living in that I was going to speak up. And I do. And this is not my day job. I mean, I have a small branding agency, as you know, but why is it so important? I mean, I know that you said, well, because Israel is our homeland, but why is it so important for you personally to be kind of like a spokeswoman for the Jewish people? And there are quite a few people doing this, as we know, but like, what's your reason? Do you remember something happening in your past? Maybe was there a moment where, like, why? You could just be doing the blogging thing without any talk about being Jewish, without any talk about being,
I'm just
Israel.
I'm an oversharer in general in life. Like it's something that I think I'm very good at. It's a gift that I overshare and share everything in my life. So for me, there's no boundaries with that. I mean, obviously we have personal things that we don't always share about our lives, but I'm the kind of person who, if I feel passionate about something, I want to share it because I know that it can make an impact in somebody's life, even if it's one person. So knowing who follows me and knowing the people who are listening, how could I ever keep that to myself? Because these people are curious and they have questions. And one of those things is about Israel. So how could I hide that from them, keep that from them? I actually feel very strongly that Jewish accounts in general who are making their living being Jewish, there are Jewish accounts that share openly about their lives as Jews. If you love Israel, share about Israel because that's a part of you being Jewish. It's not separate. Zionism and Judaism, I know people love to say they're not the same, but they are. They're intertwined. And I could never keep that part of that to myself, especially knowing the impact that it has on other people. I feel like it'd be selfish for me to keep it to myself, even though I get the backlash, but the backlash just shows me that I need to do more and be louder and share more eloquently and do more research and all of that. Cause it's just a huge part of who I am. And my grandmother was born in, I didn't even mention this, but my grandmother was born in British mandated Palestine in 1924.
Oh, wow.
So my family's very connected to Israel. Her family came over in the early 1900s and really built a community that was completely destroyed, because of the Arabs destroyed it. And they ended up building a new community in Tel Aviv in the old Jaffa area. It's now a police station, actually, but it's a pretty incredible story. I don't know if I ever shared it with you. I can share the article my cousin wrote, and I have a lot of family in Israel, a lot. My aunt and uncle live there. I have tons of cousins. One of my cousins is a Yoetzet, and she is like very, very well known in Israel. Her name is Shani Tarragon, and she's such an inspiration. She's constantly trying to get me to move to Israel. But I'm just connected in a million different ways, and I would never keep that to myself.
I want to ask you a question about what you said about yourself, which is actually really interesting, that you're an oversharer, that you like to share. You've always been like that? Rewind back to before you had your blogs and this
childhood
podcasts and everything. Yeah, have you always been like that?
Oh, yeah. Always been a talker. I was just actually speaking to a group of college students and I asked them, what is your gift? And one girl was able to raise her hand and said that her gift is empathy, which I think is so cool because that is not my gift. And I'm always working on
It's not your gift?
No, I'm working on my empathy on a regular basis. I'm minimal on the empathy, but I'm always trying. So it's a work in progress.
That's actually really surprising. I mean, because you don't come across as someone who is not empathetic. Not that you are not empathetic.
Right.
I'm sure that's not what you meant, but you actually seem like a very empathetic person.
It's nice. I'm working on it. I think maybe that's why I'd say I'm lower on the empathetic scale, right? It's definitely not my gift, but I asked them, what is your gift? And only one person raised their hand. And it was my challenge to them as I finished talking to them was for each of them to figure out what is their gift? What is that? And for me, it's that gift from Hashem, from God. What is that gift that you were given on this earth? You could be good at a lot of things, but what is that one thing that you're not just good at, but like you're great at. And for me, as funny as it sounds, my gift is my voice. My gift is talking. I'm really good at talking.
You're a very good talker, yeah.
So it's funny because we were saying before, I really don't like networking because it's funny. I think it's because of the small talk involved. I prefer.
Small talk sucks, but networking isn't small talk. I mean, like I've gone to events. Well, yeah, but I've gone to events and I've seen people who come home with 100 business cards. Usually me, it's like I've met one person, but that one person, that's it.
And you spend the whole time. It's super intentional. And that's the kind of conversations I love. That's the kind of conversations we have. So I use that gift on a regular basis. I started using it with social media and was like, this is great. And I realized that I never really dreamed so big when I was younger. I just kind of went through life and I worked and I would go home and that was it. And I was pushed to really start thinking about these big dreams, the kind of dreams that you don't even want to say out loud because they sound so dumb in your mind, but you're like, those are the right kind of dreams. All right, I'll tell you.
Give me.
So I say it out loud, even now, this many years later, I want to speak on a stage to 10,000 people. I want a microphone in my hand or, wrapped around, and I want to speak to 10,000 people. And I don't even think that's such a crazy dream anymore. I see it as something that's a possibility. And it's funny because I speak to millions of people through my phone. And that's so big that I'm like, wait, should I be dreaming about something else? But no, I really want this. I have this big goal of being able to be up on that stage and I'm working towards it. And I'll tell you, sometimes I'm like, oh, it's not happening this time. And then I remind myself, dreams don't have to happen tomorrow, right? There's something that you're working towards. So said it out loud. It still feels crazy when I say it, but I really do want it to happen. And it's not just about motivational speaking or things like that. It's about just making an impact in other people's lives.
Because I was going to say, what would you talk about? Like, what are the things when you see yourself in your head, like in front of, thousands of people? Do you have any idea? It
used to be, you're manifesting. I like this. We're picturing where we need to be. It used to be motivational speaking, like really teaching people. Because I actually ran one conference, it was right before COVID, about intentionality. And it was called Kavana. I actually have a sign behind me that says Kavana, which is conscious intentionality, and teaching people how to go through life wanting something more and how to get that. That's really what I used to picture. And now what I picture are high school and college students. And that's who I'm talking to. Why? And it's because as I speak to them more, and what I never expected, especially through TikTok, was to have such a massive audience of high school students. Never expected that in my life to happen. And when it started happening, I realized that the impact that I'm having on these young minds is so powerful. And part of it is their love for Israel, their love for Judaism. And part of it is them just learning a little more and being open to learning more about their own Judaism and connecting to it.
So it's mainly Jewish.
In my mind, this audience is Jewish. Mm-hmm. Not all Jewish, but in my mind, this audience is Jewish. Yeah. Because I love the people that I connect with who aren't Jewish, and I'm teaching about Judaism because that's a huge part of what I do. There's something so special about a Jewish high school student who's completely secular and going to public school and wherever they live. And there's the only Jew or there's two other Jews, and they meet me in person or they send me a message and they tell me what it means to them to watch my videos and to see how I'm living my life. It's not me trying to make anybody more religious. None of that matters. It's about them connecting to Judaism, to their ethnicity, to their identity, and becoming more confident with that in a world that wants us to be the opposite, that wants us to hide our Judaism.
Are your parents similar to you in they are? Like you're the same modern Orthodox? How do they view what you're doing?
They love it. They love it because they're so similar. My dad, I mean, if you've ever seen any of the videos I do with my dad, he is he's a sharer as well. He doesn't teach professionally, but he's such a good teacher, and he'll teach classes here and there because he's just so freaking smart.
Well, hold on a second. You came with your family to Israel the last time.
Yeah.
And I saw that was, I did see some videos with your dad. Yeah. That's right.
And he's very well spoken and he knows so much. My grandfather was the same way. It did not pass down the same to me, where it all just stays up there. Me, I look everything up. It's fine. I'm okay with it. But for him, it's like he could recite the entire Tanakh for you and just tell you where things are. I'm like, I don't remember any of that from middle school. But He loves to share, and he also is very passionate about that identity to Judaism. He actually does not like the titles of like Orthodox and conservative and reform, and I totally am with him. I tend to use it more for educational purposes. For people, especially someone like me who's modern Orthodox, where people don't even know that my kind exist. In their minds, it's what they see on TV or in a movie, right? Orthodox means Hasidic in their minds. And there's this whole world out there that you don't really see in movies. And I'm one of those people. So I love to use that. So that's why I use the word Orthodox. But he's just like, you observe or you don't observe. Whatever you observe, you're observant or you're not. Like it's not, an observant doesn't mean Orthodox. So I don't even like when people say observant, because you can be an observant Reform Jew. You're observant as a conservative Jew. You're observant of what you follow. So I use it, again, for the educational things, but I totally get where he's coming from with not liking the separation, and especially in a time when we should all be supporting each other and not caring. You live your life your way. I'll live it my way. And we don't have to hate each other. You know, it's okay. Or judge each other even. Yeah. And actually, one of the things I was thinking about, because you asked this before, and it kind of goes with what I was saying before about why I don't want to get off of TikTok. And I don't want to forget about that, because I probably would otherwise. That
Me too.
Yeah, for sure.
We don't know what we're doing.
I love it. But when I was sharing about the high school and college students that I've been connecting with, I realized that they're on TikTok. They're not getting off of TikTok. They love it for a million different reasons. And even with all of the anti-Semitism and all of the hate, they are still there. And for me to get off of TikTok because of the app itself, well, let's be real, all these different Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, they're all doing terrible things right now in different ways. I'm not leaving these kids behind. I cannot leave these kids behind. That would be I think it would be a travesty. And it's not about me, it's about them. It's not like, oh, I'm this great person, I can't leave them behind. But I know that I have an impact in their lives. And I won't leave them behind to all the crazy on TikTok just because I don't like that they ban videos and things. I just work around it. I work around with the way that I use words.
Have there been people coming to you and saying, get off TikTok? Have you been feeling pressure to get off?
No pressure now. I actually shut that down real fast. There was a time on Instagram where it was like, okay, Melinda, you need to get out. There were people making videos and there were people messaging me. And I was like, no. And none of these people were really on TikTok. So I'm like, if you're on TikTok, like Judy leaving TikTok, I get it. I get it with where she was at. I agree with it for myself, but I get it for her. And I'm like, these people who are not on TikTok telling me because of things that they hear when they don't experience it themselves. Yeah, I get a lot of negativity. And I set a lot of boundaries, but beyond the negativity, there's so much good. There's so much good and so many incredible messages and so many like great comments. And then when I meet people in person, like I was just at Harvard and I met so many people. It was so cool because I was following Ishai Rebo. I was there for his concert at Harvard.
I saw that. You were just fanboy.
Oh my gosh.
You're gaga over him.
I mean, Liz, it was the end of the night. I was just so happy I was getting a video with him because it was a very long night. I was so giddy, not just from Ishai, but from the room. Like the energy in the room that night. He played 2 concerts.
Joy.
Pure joy. That smile, it wasn't just like fangirl over Ishai. I spent literally the whole night in the green room with him whenever he wasn't singing and doing interviews. It was just this pure joy from a night of watching all of these students and there were families there with their young kids who live in the area, just so happy and all together. And it was like, I was exploding with joy, but I was following him into this VIP room and a few people were like, oh my God, that's Ishai Rebo. And then they're like, oh my God, it's Melinda Strauss. And I'm like, Ishai, I'm not as cool as you. I mean, I can't speak to he's Hebrew, I'm English. Like there's not much that we can have a conversation about, but I was like, am I as cool as Ishai Rebo? I am not. But in a different way, it was so cool to be seen by these people who were all so excited to meet me. And then I got to interview them all and ask them how they show their Jewish pride and what it meant to them that Ishai was there for them. Really, that was his purpose in even being in America in the first place, to show up for the people who are suffering in these colleges right now. And it was amazing. It was so good.
You spoke about your dad. I'm curious about your mom.
My mom, I love my mom. She doesn't do a lot of videos with me. We do some once in a while. They're very different with that kind of stuff. But my mom people wouldn't know this about her. She's like a bull. Like don't mess with Grandma Shelley. That's what we call her because my kids call her Grandma Shelley. Her mom actually, Grandma Dorothy, she's 98 years old. She is, thank God, still alive. So the Grandma Dorothy and Grandma Shelley, very similar. I don't want to curse, but like, don't mess with them. They are the nicest people you are ever going to meet. And they all, and like my mom is everything for the community. Everything for the community. But like, then there's the other side of things where you're like, don't mess.
Don't mess.
But that's my biggest thing from her is that she is just a doer. Like if you want things done in the community, you could just ask my parents and it'll get done. That's
so very active in the community.
Very. My dad's been president of the shul a few times. My mom is a serial volunteer. She's always with the shul, with the school, all of that kind of stuff. So she is, one of those people that if you need to get it done, just go ask Shelley.
So when I talk to people who are in the public arena, eyeballs on them,
mm-hmm.
You have a husband.
I do.
So, and you're an oversharer, as you admit. How does he deal with all of your shenanigans online?
Well, we set some really good boundaries, I think. And with my children as well, that's taken time to figure out the right kind of boundaries. But I don't put anybody on my videos without their permission. So that includes my husband, that includes Justin. He will say to me, I don't want to be in a video. And I'm like, okay. Sometimes I'm like, please. But for the most part, when he says no, it's just no. Zach, my 15-year-old, never wants to be in videos. Totally fine. Nora once in a while will want to be in one, but they're not my content. They're not who I need in order to be successful. So in the background, I need them. They need my supporters. They're my life, but not to be on, like my face is public and I'm an oversharer, but they're not. So I would never push them to do things. And that goes with my friends too. I'll go out for dinner with friends, but I don't put them on. They don't want to be on. I'm like, can I record the food, please, at the restaurant? And if they say really like, no, I just put down my phone.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I guess I hadn't thought about that. Again, like the type of stuff that you do and the type of stuff that I do is very different because I really create pieces and I, produced pieces that are not usually me. But you're taking your phone around and you're documenting your life and you're everywhere. I never thought about the friends thing actually. Yeah, that kind of, do they ever, like my sister, she's a fantastic photographer. And she's always taking pictures. I mean, she's very artsy, but I mean, fucking hell, we're just having dinner. We're just having some fucking rice. Can you put the phone down? But she's like, no, and she's always documenting.
Right.
Does that not like annoy people?
It does, which is why I ask permission. I really do. I'm an over permissioner. I always believe in asking.
Over everything.
I'm an over everything. I am. I'm just big in everything that I do. But which is so true, by the way, I don't just buy one sweatshirt. I buy 50. Like I just can't help myself with everything. And I've always been like that. And I pass that down to my daughter. But I feel like we have to respect the people around us. And yes, this is my business, but my business shouldn't make other people suffer. And asking them permission is so important. If you're with people who don't want that, put down your phone, or I'll ask permission beforehand before we even go somewhere, just to like set the stage of, or if I'm with my kids, but we're somewhere because of social media, I'll say to them, I know you're not going to love it, but we're here because they want me to be recording. So let's just figure out that balance and I'll talk to them about it first. But if people really don't want me on my phone, I put down my phone. I can't let my business come before my family, my friends, my values. I was just talking about this the other day. I made a video about babies and children, these children who cannot consent to being in video. They don't speak. And then even when they're toddlers, they have no idea what a digital footprint is. Or if they're religious, they don't understand that one day they might be in the shidduch system and dating, and you could go back and find videos of them on the potty or their little baby, routine when they were younger. Like those things just shouldn't be happening. Besides the fact that there are a lot of perverts out there who take these videos and do whatever they want with it. If I ask the people in my life permission, everyone should have that same right. And that includes little children.
So you're a bit of a celebrity, right? I mean, you are.
Sure.
Well, I think so, because if you're being recognized and people follow you and they love you, but it's also a business. And that's actually something that I wanted to speak to you about, because you mentioned it at the beginning that you could be overwhelmed with email and then you'd be missing opportunities, and you have partnerships. For people who don't know what that is, for people who don't know the behind the scenes of the type of things that you're promoting, partnerships that exist. Like, how does that whole world work? Like, give me a few examples of companies that you partner with, what your responsibility is, what your, kind of like what your role is. I think that a lot of people would love to know.
Right. So this is the influencer side of things, right?
Yeah.
Where there's content creation, which, I mean, it's still the same thing, but with influencer, it's companies reaching out because they want you to share their product. My number one rule is if I don't like a product, I'm not working with the company, no matter how much they want to pay me. These companies, they reach out to my manager, or if you're someone without a manager, they reach out to you. Contracts are key. I just had to share that for anyone who's actually like trying to learn how to be an influencer. Contracts are really important. Discussing everything up front. Deliverables is the word, where it's what do they want from you? What are you going to give them? And always remembering that they're hiring you because of who you are. So I try to remember that all the time when I'm making a video. And if they were to say, hey, can you put on some makeup? Maybe put something pretty. No, like that's not who I am. And if I did that in a video, people would think I look crazy. So it's still being yourself through everything. But these companies will reach out. I've worked with JCPenney. I've worked with Sam's Club. I don't know if you know what Sam's Club is. It's like Costco. And I work with a lot of Jewish companies, a lot.
So what do they do? So they come to you and they say, hey, okay, Melinda Strauss, she's amazing. We want her to what?
Promote. I don't know. Spring is, let's say JCPenney is a fun example, right? Their new spring line is out in the juniors department, and they want me to share about it, and or camp stuff. I actually did that last year. They had all their like summer stuff out. So I went shopping and I bought tons of stuff, and I got to shop and get paid for it, which is really cool. And I always like to connect things back to my platform. So it was sharing about modesty or sharing about uniforms for school. So always bringing it back to connecting to Judaism in a way, because that's what people are interested in. So even if I haven't worked with a toothpaste company, but if Colgate wants to reach out, I would share about it and then also talk about how toothpaste doesn't need to be kosher, right? So there's always that little thing for me of making sure that I'm always bringing back what I know the people following me want to learn. I'm not just a commercial, right? I want it to always be educational at the same time. I worked with Route One. I love this organization so much. They give vouchers to high school students, to Jewish, more secular high school students to come to Israel for the summer. And they go on different Route One affiliated programs. And I think this organization is incredible. I was with them last summer. I've been working with them kind of throughout the year. And that's a partnership I love all my partnerships, but a partnership like that takes it to the next level of like the heart that goes into it. Working with Nefesh B'Nefesh, right? I went on their charter flight this summer and it was a life-changing, incredible experience. All the things, or even, I mean, it wasn't a paid thing, but like, and not everything that I do is paid, but going with AJC to Israel, that's when I met you in person at the Hostages Square. Those are partnerships too in different kind of ways. They brought a team of influencers to Israel to bear witness and to share what we saw from October 7th. So there's all different kinds of partnerships, and it's for me finding the right ones that mean something to me, and not just, I mean, I love anything in the kitchen. So food products and pots and pans, those are other examples too.
So people reach out to you and they say, okay, she's, this is one of her passions. Would you be willing to feature or talk about a product if we send it to you?
Yeah.
And then you do that. You take the product, you talk about it. I'm sure it's happened where you get stuff where in person you're like, not so great.
Yeah.
What do you do in those situations?
So I like to make sure that if I'm getting paid, right, then they send me something first so I can make sure I actually like it before I'm like, sure, give me all your money. Sometimes companies send PR, they'll send free things. They do this all the time. They don't even always tell you they're sending, they just do. And I will try things before I share them. I'll do sometimes unboxings of things, especially if I know they're good. But if, let's say, pots and pans is just a good example, because if I were to get a case of pots and pans worth $500 and they're not good and they tarnish after one use, I'm glad I tried them before I shared them. And I'll tell the company, hey, this really isn't working for me. Or if it was just free PR, you just donate it.
Yeah, it's funny. This is kind of new to me, but it started recently when I've started putting myself more in front of the camera outside of Facebook, because I built a community on Facebook, but then I started going on these other platforms and, things started exploding. So companies have been reaching out to me, and even this shirt that I'm wearing right now, which I don't know if you can see it.
Is it anti? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
So
this
this
one.
is a lovely lady she has her own little store. I would love to plug it right now because
Go for it.
I love her stuff, but she's sweetpoppylane.com. Her name is Dina, and she just said, I'd love to send you a couple of things, which she did. And I love it so much because I love the branding, but it's actually good material too. So I'm like, send me some more. I'll promote it. I'll help it.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever I can.
It's like the sweatshirt I have on too. It says kind vibes only, and it's from Just One Chesed, which is an organization in Israel. And they sent a whole box of sweatshirts and hats and all these things because I work with Just One Chesed a lot, and I love to promote their organization. They do incredible work. We were actually when I was just there in Israel, we made pizza for the Chayalim, and we went to their base, and just to bring them some joy, we made the pizza, and then we brought them to eat. So they sent I love a mixture of like they send you free stuff. Some companies pay you. It's a complicated thing with influencing because it is a very new field and there's no consistency across the board.
Which is why you said agreements are key.
Yes, contracts are so important. Asking people for advice. And if somebody doesn't want to give you advice, then they're sitting in scarcity mindset. They're not as successful as you might think they are because somebody who really is successful is going to want you to be successful too. They're not going to want to keep you down. So ask people for advice, hope for the best that you'll get it. I just don't think we need to figure it out for ourselves. Like I've been doing this a long time. So when somebody says, hey, how much do you think I should be charging? I have 1,000 followers. I'm going to answer them. Or I'm going to tell them, hey, maybe for this, you should be charging this or that, whatever, because I want to be able to help people figure it out for themselves because there's just no right answer for everyone. We all get paid differently. It's very confusing.
There's one thing because I'm conscious of the time. We have another couple of minutes, and I want to save it for two questions. I usually start the podcast by asking you to complete a sentence, and I haven't done it in the last couple, but I want to with you. So I'm going to ask you a question and then take your time answering it.
Okay.
And then I have one more question. But here's the sentence to complete. Okay. Melinda Strauss. I'm that.
Oh, well, this one's fun because we kind of did this with, you're saying like, I'm that Jew, or it could be anything.
Could be anything.
Okay. Because it's funny because I really go to I'm that Jew. That's just my answer. I mean, I could go longer.
No, that's fine.
I'm that outspoken Jew. I'm that loves to cook Jew. I'm that oversharer Jew. I'm that I love to answer all your questions about Judaism Jew. I'm that Jew. Being Jewish comes first for me. It is the thing that guides my entire life.
Well, that is a great answer then, because it's not about, when I ask the question on this podcast, it's not about the Jewish thing. It's just like, I'm that what?
Yeah.
But I think that, having spoken to you and getting to know you, that makes a lot of sense. The other question I have, and it's the last one, is this. Being the oversharer that you are, my friend, what is something that not a lot of people know about you at all? Really? And something that you haven't said.
Oh, never said?
If no one's asked you this before.
Okay, well, I was going to say that I love to curse. I'm an over curser.
But people
my dad,
know that.
my parents hate it. People in my regular life, they know it. I don't curse on social media. Very rare occasion because I have a lot of little kids who watch my videos and like all my cousins' kids watch my videos. So I try to be conscious of that.
I swear all the time. I'm a potty mouth.
Yeah,
I'm being really nice right now because of your audience. I'm being lovely.
Yes, but I definitely
fucking want to swear right now so bad.
Do it again.
Fucking want to swear. Okay, so what is something that really, 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 really not a lot of people know about you that you're comfortable sharing?
Oh, I stole something once in high school. I stole from a store. I know it's like such a silly thing to share, but like
silly thing to share.
But
you can go much bigger than that, love.
Okay, I can go bigger than that. I made a video last night. So many of these. I made a video last night that I've never seen Schindler's List or The Pianist.
You haven't seen those?
I've never seen those movies.
That's not something to be ashamed about, but it is surprising.
It's surprising, right? I'm embarrassed. But what's funny is my sisters called me right before you and I started talking. And they were like, Mel, I can't believe you've never seen those. But also when you were younger, we were watching Schindler's List and you looked at it and you're like, I don't want to watch this. And you walked out.
Really?
Because it was just such a sad story. And I just didn't want that kind of like, I don't want the sad vibes. So I still remember
going to the cinema. I remember which cinema. I remember who I went with. I remember what the
Wow.
weather was. And I remember that when the movie finished, I had never cried watching anything about the Holocaust, ever. And at the end of this movie, as the credits were rolling, I sat there as the entire cinema emptied out, and I lost it. I was bawling. I was just like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have not been able to bring myself. It's not the type of movie. Let's go watch Schindler's List
Movie
again.
night. Yeah. Like,
No.
I do need to
can't.
watch it though. I do. I know
It's
that I do.
very, very, very powerful. Very,
Wow.
very
And I'm not a
powerful.
crier, which I've shared about a little bit, but I look at other people who cry and I think that is so strong. You are so strong. When I cry, I think it makes me weak.
Oh, no, not at all. Really?
Oh, I know. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
But it's my siblings were like that. My dad's not a crier. Like I'm sure it's one of those things that if I went to a therapist, we'd be discussing. But but I think it's so strong and powerful when other people cry. I'm like, yeah, get it out.
It's
Me,
actually
I cry. I'm
something
like,
that I just wrote about that today. Someone who I actually respect greatly, I don't need to talk about who, wrote about the fact that as the Jewish people, we don't need to ask anyone's permission. That's true for anything.
Mhm.
But in terms of kind of like there was this, let's not ask for help. Let's not ask for support. We can handle this on our own. And I actually wrote about vulnerability as a strength because I actually think that it takes strength to reach out. It takes strength to ask for help. It takes strength to kind of like show that you need support. And I also think it's realistic because as the Jewish people, the country of Israel, we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't even be around if we didn't have allies who are not Jewish. So I think that, and it's not a direct connection to what you're saying, but showing vulnerability, I think is a strength. It takes tremendous courage to show vulnerability. And I also think it's a very smart thing to do. It's a smart thing to do to be soft sometimes,
Mhm.
but
and
it's not
working
exactly
on it.
what we were talking about. Well, yeah, the biggest thing about this whole conversation with you, because it's not really an interview, it's a conversation, which I love,
Mhm.
is when you said that you're working on your empathy. That is, I think, the thing that not a lot of people know about you, unless you've spoken about it.
Right.
But I'm
I
pretty
talk about
shocked.
everything, so it's hard to like think of things that I've never
You seem
shared.
like the most empathetic person around. You just like
That
seem
is
very.
so nice.
You don't. I'm just.
That is
You
so
doubt it even. Anyone listening to this right now thinks you're crazy, Melinda. They're like, she's just so empathetic. She's warm. She's caring. She cares about people. No, I mean
To
that's
me,
what
empathy is more than just caring about people. It's also understanding where people are at, right? Versus just judging them for everything and like getting annoyed with people and losing patience with it. It's meeting people where they're at in their own lives. And that to me is a big part of empathy. It's not just
It
caring
is.
about people because
It's true.
we see a lot of people out there who pretend to care about people, but really are screaming and yelling at Jews for all these crazy things. But they're the empathetic ones. So that's where my struggle is. It's meeting people where they're at, where I'm like your dog died, you're fine. You're just get another one. That's a crazy example, but it's true. And in my head, I'm like, Mel, your friend's dog just died. Be nice. Ask them how they're doing and don't ask them when they're getting another one.
Yeah. And don't give them advice and just listen to them.
Yeah. So that's to me is empathy, is understanding where other people are at so that you can meet them there versus.
Do you actually know someone called Kim Smiley?
I don't know. I feel like that's familiar.
So she makes jewelry, but she actually has a kind of like a series called The Empathy Effect.
Ooh.
And it's all about that. I have to connect you guys. Listen,
yeah, please do.
We are out of time, but I want to do one more thing, which is I want to remind people that you, Melinda Strauss, are amazing. If there's anyone to follow on social media, you're in my top 10 list because it's just such a little yes. No, well, because you're just like you're a real pleasure to just like listen to, and on a personal, you're very personable and you're very authentic, and a lot of people talk about that in today's day and age, but not a lot of people really are that, and you are. So follow Melinda Strauss at The Real Melinda Strauss on TikTok and on Instagram. And if you want to find out more about Melinda Strauss, 2 S's at the end.com.
Yes.
Melinda, thank you so much. I'm going to be speaking to you right after this call, and we're probably going to message each other 10 times today anyway. But I love you, and you're the best. And thank you so much for being on I'm That with me.
This was amazing. Thank you. I love you too.
Yay. Well, that's it. Thank you for joining me on I'm That. I hope you enjoyed the chat, and I hope you'll join me for our next guest. In the meantime, definitely hit subscribe, whether you're on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, or any other platform. And if you can, leave a comment, give it a like, and tell your friends. That would be brilliant. Stay tuned for the next show, and see you soon.